Hopefully I can get through this faster. These other ones take a while to go through everything. All right, remember, you're only reading word problems to find out what H stands for and what T stands for. That's the only reason you're reading the word problem. A ball is thrown from an initial height of 1 meter at the initial upward velocity of 25 meters per second. The ball's height, so this stands for the height, in meters after t seconds. So this is our time in seconds. So notice I skipped over this part. It didn't matter. It's already in the problem. Here's the 1, here's the 25. The only thing, it's a math problem. You're finding out what H is and you're finding out what T is. Now, if they happen to give you the time, if they give you seconds, you just plug it in here and you plug it in here and let your calculator do the work, because it won't have any variables here. If you're trying to find H, then you're rather going to factor or use quadratic. Okay? Now, find all values of T for which the ball's height is 11 meters. Meters goes here. So you have 11, and then you have your problem. 1 plus 25t minus 5t squared. Now, I'm going to rearrange. I'm going to take the 11 over here by subtracting it. Okay. I'm going to get 0. I'm going to bring this negative 5t squared to the front. Keep the 20. Notice I didn't change the sign. It's on the right-hand side of my equal sign. So I didn't move it to the other side, so my sign stays. Plus 25t minus 10. Now, you can use your quadratic formula at this point. Okay? I'm going to make it smaller, and I want to see if it factors anyway. So I'm going to factor out a negative 5, because negative 5 goes into each of these. And the reason it's negative because I want my t squared to be positive. So that's a positive t squared minus 5t plus 2. Unfortunately, it doesn't factor. So what I'm going to do, but it makes it easier on me because I don't need my calculator now. X equals, I only have to worry about this. Now you can do this up here, but this is smaller. I don't worry about that because it doesn't have a t with it. So right here, my negative b is a negative 5, so it's become a positive 5. Plus or minus. Here's where you got to be careful. If you're going to let your calculator square that negative 5, you need to put it in parentheses. I wouldn't do it. Me personally, would just write 25 right there. Excuse me. Minus 4 times my a, which is 1, times my c, which is 2, all over 2 times my a, which is 1. So I have 5 plus or minus the square root. This gives me 25. Okay. This gives me minus 8, which that gives me the square root of 17 all over 2. Now the problem with this is that doesn't even make sense. We are talking about time. So if you're talking about time, I've never heard anybody tell me the time using a radical. So this is where the decimal answer is better. And again, it's going to also tell you to round to the nearest hundredth. Well, 100 has 2 zeros in it, so your decimal point has 2 zeros. I mean 2 numbers. Okay, so now you're going to use your calculator, and I have to use my phone. Hold on just a second. Let me get to it. Okay, so I gotta turn it sideways. If you only have your phone, you gotta turn it sideways to get to the radical. Alright, so I'm going to do the 5 plus the square root of 17 first. This is harder on this calculator. And then I'm going to divide it by 2. And I get 4.56 approximately. And now I'm going to do the 5 minus the square root of 17. Hold on, it takes me a little bit when I'm doing this. I don't have our calculator, or my calculator. And this is in seconds. It's important that you put your units. 0.44 seconds. Okay, both of those answers are just fine. Okay? I hope you can't. I can hear my husband outside talking. He knows I'm videoing. Okay. So both of those answers are perfectly fine. Because time has to, you just got to keep in mind, time has to be positive. And they are both positive, okay? So, and why is that? That is because, this was where the initial one, okay? So that 11 feet might be here, and then that ball's going to hit at its highest point and come back down and hit the ground. So it's going to be right here. Now, if the question had asked about when does it hit the ground, your height is 0. Or if it's a diving board and it hits the water, your height would be 0. And notice, it only hits the ground once because it never started on the ground. Okay, question 23, absolute value. Got to get your absolute value by itself first. You're going to take the 13 to the other side by subtracting it. And you get the absolute value of y equals 9. Okay? So, absolute value of 9. Hold on a second. I'm double checking. Yeah, okay. If you just put 9, that's only one answer. Remember, absolute value is how far away from 0 something is. So here's 0. Well, you have a number somewhere to the right that's 9 units away. You also have a number to the left that's 9 units away. Well, this number down here would be -9. This number up here would be a +9. So what you do is you take that y, you set it equal to a +9, excuse me, and y set it equal to a -9. Okay? Those are both answers. You need both of them. Okay. Now here is a little different. Okay? And I think I changed one of these, right? Let me see the back one. Yeah. I changed number 26 because it was set equal to 0 as well. All right, well, here is different. It's only at 0. How many of those units is from 0? So you can't put a +0 and a -0. So on this one, you're just going to say 2v plus 8 equals 0. And you're going to subtract 8. And you get 2v equals a -8. Notice I'm skipping that step because you should know that. Divide by 2, and v is equal to -4. Now, you can actually check all these answers. Okay, like this one here. You would have 2 times -4 gives us -8 plus 8. Inside here, I get the absolute value of 0. Is that equal to 0? And yes, it is. So the left equaled the right. Up here, when I check it, the absolute value of 9 is 9. Plus 13 gives me 22. Well, the absolute value of a -9 is also 9. 9 plus 13 gives us 22. Because remember, absolute value is always positive as a distance from 0. When you take the absolute value of something, not when you're solving. Okay, right here, you always want to check your answers on radicals and absolute. Well, it'd be good if you can do it always, but if you run out of time, but especially on these. So you're going to subtract 21, and you get the absolute value of y minus 5 equals a -15. At this point, I know no matter what I get in here, I can't end up with a negative 15 because taking an absolute value of something is always positive. This, my answer is going to be no solution. But let's say you went ahead and solved. Okay? Let's just say you came down here and said y minus 5 equals a positive 15 and y minus 5 equals a negative 15. Well, here you would get y equals 20 because you'd add 5. Right here you get y equals a negative 10. Okay? So, when you check your answer, when you plug 20 in here, you get 20 minus 5. And when you do that, you get 15. The absolute value of 15 is 15. It is not equal to 6. Okay, so that one doesn't work. So let's try our negative 10. Absolute value of negative 10 minus 5, add 21, and if it's correct, it'll give me 6. But inside here, I get the absolute value of negative 15, which is 15. If I add 21 to that, I don't get 6, I get 36. Okay? So, by checking it, I found out neither worked, so my answer is no solution. Now, because of that problem there, let's straighten this up, okay? I had you switch this because we already did one with 0. I had you switch that to 15, okay? To do these correctly, you've got to isolate this part right here. You got to get the absolute value by itself. I've done that on every problem already. So it's got a negative 3. I'm multiplying it, so I've got to divide. I think I changed this to a negative 15. Okay, because if I left it positive, it wouldn't have worked. Okay, so change that to a negative. So now I have the absolute value of 2y plus 6 is equal to a positive 5. Now that I have that, I have 2y plus 6 equals 5, and 2y plus 6 equals a negative 5. I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. Take that over here by subtracting it. Get negative 1, divide by 2, and y equals negative 1/2. Right here, subtract 6 from both sides, and you get 2y equals negative 11, divide by 2, and y equals negative 11/2. If you were to check those answers, they would work, okay? If I plug negative 1/2 in, I get negative 1 plus 6 gives me 5. The absolute value of 5 is 5. So 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. It worked. When I plug in negative 11/2, that's going to give me negative 11 plus 5 gives me absolute value of negative 5, which is positive 5, times negative 3 gives me negative 15. Okay, we're back to solving for you here. This looks like it's in factored form, and it's close. It's just not factored all the way. I can factor this further as u plus 7 and u plus 4. That factors further, okay? Also, this factors further, okay? Factor out a 3. I don't like it being in the middle, but it's not going to be that big a deal because I'm only worried about u, and I get u plus 7 equals 0. Okay. So, I don't like the way that looks, so I'm going to rewrite it. We really have 3 times u plus 7 2 times, so that's squared, and u plus 4 equals 0. Now, I only need one of these. So u plus 7 is equal to 0, and u plus 4 equals 0. I don't worry about this 3 because it doesn't have a u with it. Here I'm going to subtract 7, I get u equals a negative 7. Here I'm going to subtract 4, and I get u equals a negative 4. And I'm going to stop right there on this one.